right, good afternoon and welcome everyone joining me in class today. A special shout out to the virtual students that are going to be watching the video later. I'm sure everyone's ready to enjoy their weekend, so we'll go ahead and get started. If you check the display on the intro slide, it's going to show you exactly how to get things set up, so we're not going to rehash that at all. Today is February the 13th, 2021. We're on week 5 of EDT 8130. Let's go ahead and make this a distraction-free zone. I know all of us are joining remotely or virtually, so I understand there may be some background noise. We want to limit it as much as possible. Go ahead and shut the door, turn off the TV, silence any cell phones in the area so we can just focus on this lesson. All right, let's go ahead and take a calming breath in the sitting up position. I want you to take a deep cleansing breath in. Go ahead and take a deep exhale breath out. All right, I hope that helps. Let's do a really quick quality check. I would like for everyone to go into the chat and type their name. I want to make sure you guys can see the red record in the upper left hand and you can hear me adequately. Go ahead and raise your hand if you can do that and type your name in the chat, please. All right, everybody can go ahead and put their hand down. All right, we are using the textbook Thinking Collaboratively in a Community of Inquiry. This is by Randy Garrison. And more specifically, we're going to be going over chapter 5 and 6, specifically over the community of inquiry and the community of inquiry research. All right, really quickly, let's go ahead and do a really quick icebreaker. Let's get the blood flowing. So what is 3/7 chicken, 2/3 cat, and 2/4 goat? If you want to take a few minutes to think over that information, I'll give you about 1 to 2 minutes. And if you can think of the answer, go ahead and raise your hand or type it in the chat. All right, it looks like Andrea got the answer. Good job, Caitlin. Farm, nope, but that was a good try. The answer is Chicago. All right, so let's go ahead and discuss the learning objectives. So we're going to be able to explain in detail the 3 presences of the Community of Inquiry, or COI framework. We'll identify the Community of Inquiry as a valuable theoretical guide for collaborative approaches to learning environments, and we'll be able to state an opinion on the necessity of the teacher presence in the future of education. All right. Although there are several theoretical frameworks, Community of Inquiry is by far the most frequently cited learning theoretic framework based on the analysis of text between 2000 and 2012, and that can be used across multiple types of learning environments. It entails 3 paradigms. So there's social, there's cognitive, and there's teacher's presence. They meet in the middle to ensure an environment of deep thinking and discourse. So these 3 areas work hand in hand to make a map of thinking and learning collaboratively. Social presence is about being able to identify with the community and feeling comfortable enough to share your views on a topic while building a relationship in that community and establishing a personality within that group. This requires that we prevent group thinking, which is where you just kind of go with the flow of the group, as well as confirmation bias. Who here remembers confirmation bias from last week? Raise your hand if you remember confirmation bias. All right, good. Confirmation bias is a belief system that only agrees with things that fit into your own personal view of the world. Confirmation bias can hinder the learning process. Give us a couple examples, or just give me an example in the chat of confirmation bias and how it can be detrimental in your work environment. So how can just kind of not being able to see the other side of things, how can that be detrimental? Very good. No growth. It doesn't allow for growth. It kind of blocks growth, in fact. Right, misconceptions as well. All right, cognitive presence is the ability to create meaning from the discourse and the exchange of the community or group that you're a part of. So after you've created that social aspect and you guys are comfortable with one another and you share those thoughts or opinions, now you're able to generate a cognitive presence, which encourages thinking and learning collaboratively, but it's contingent on that social aspect and the comfortability to share your thoughts and opinions. So it's important that you feel like you're in a safe space in order to be vulnerable with those people in your group. This is the transactional nature of a community of inquiry. You're expected to share your thoughts in the social presence realm, and through that discourse, you'll create something tangible. Teacher presence. All right, according to Garrison, a meaningful learning experience requires leadership, which brings us to teacher presence. Teacher presence is manifested by the leader of a group or community that is willing to facilitate a safe and meaningful experience. So if you're like Sugata Mitra, which we learned about in last class, you believe that the role of the teacher is diminishing in its expectations, which is true in its own way. All right, but it's still very necessary, in my opinion. Some believe without the leadership role, the group would lack the ability to function effectively or efficiently, but we can argue that each presence, though necessary, may also be able to be scaled to fit a specific environment. So some may require more social presence, where others may need more of a teacher's presence. Last week, we reviewed the future of education through the eyes of Adam Braun and Sugata Mitra. Adam finds the future of education is in the classroom with the teacher's heavy teacher-led instruction, while Sugata Mitra, on the other hand, takes a different approach. He believes education is moving towards self-organized learning environments, or SOL, which is where students allow the education process to happen naturally with a minimal teacher presence. Let's go ahead and assess. What was the most frequently cited blended learning theoretical framework based on the thematic analysis of articles and book chapters between 2000 and 2012? Was it A, transactional distance, B, social presence, C, blended learning, or D, community of inquiry? Very good. Community of inquiry. Everyone's getting that answer right. That means I'm doing something right here. All right, let's move on to the next slide. Assessment number 2. The community of inquiry framework is an educational theory that could be associated with A, very few learning environments, B, some learning environments, C, multiple learning environments, or D, no learning environments. C, very good, multiple learning environments. All right. Teacher presence is tasked with maintaining the function of the group. So that leader role or that teacher role engages the social presence, which ignites cognitive presence. This process engages students and elevates the level of the teacher presence. I think last week's video would work perfectly for our small case study in regards to teacher presence and its significance in education in the future. So if you remember, we watched a video that followed the lives of two men with very different approaches to education. Sugata Mitra, who was the TED Award winner, he founded the dynamic education process where you have less teacher roles. And then Adam Braun, the founder of Pencils of Promise, he believed education needed more teachers. And he went across the globe and tried to make that possible. The original framework for the SOUL program, or the self-organized learning program, started with an observation of students given nothing more than a rough task and internet. So on the left here, you'll see a picture of students in a rural area. What he did was he set up a computer in a very rural area of India with not much information, just internet and a computer presence. And these students didn't have a very big teacher role present, but they were able to create something tangible. They were able to teach themselves things. And over time, you kind of notice how they would find other students and they would teach them how this whole program worked as well. In your personal environment, maybe even in your line of business, with a reduced leadership presence, what would that look like? Would that look like disruption or transformative? Or do you think it would be a positive or a negative approach? Can you type in the chat and just let me know if you think that could be a positive or a negative approach in your work or field of study? All right, now we're going to move on to the case study. I'm going to go ahead and provide the link to the study here, and that'll be in the chat. We'll go ahead and take about 3 minutes to discuss the answers once we get back. The goal in all of this is to see if you all are able to resolve an issue, answer a question with limited teacher involvement. So I'm going to simply provide you guys with this link. All the information that you're going to need should be available to you in the Google Classroom slide. And then we'll meet back here to see if you all were able to create something tangible from this case study with limited teacher involvement. All right, just 1 second. You guys go ahead and look at that file while I get the breakout room set up. All right, and I'm going to have you guys go into group 1. All right, virtual students, while they are working on that particular assignment, I also want you to complete this very same assignment. You're going to see this link presented in the email that you all got sent earlier this week. I want you to complete this exact same assignment with limited teacher presence. I do want you to partner with your previously assigned group member and work on this together. I'm just going to use the honor code. Give yourselves about 3 to 5 minutes to try and resolve this answer, and then make sure you include that in your summary. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and pull you back from the breakout rooms. Let's go ahead and share your document. We'll share the content on my screen so you guys can see what I see here. All right, is anyone prepared to share your answers? It looks like you guys did get the right answer, so I just wonder how you were able to come up with that response with the limited amount of teacher presence.
So we were a little confused at first just because I think without the teacher presence, there wasn't much direction. But then once we started trying to put together, obviously we knew that there were names involved, but we couldn't really figure out who to choose based on names. So then we started looking at the numbers, and we were still confused with the numbers. But then since it only went up to 11 and it was talking about a calendar, we started thinking about what number of month that was. So then the 6 referred to June, the 4 referred to April, and then we kind of saw that it was making a pattern to spell out Jason's name.
All right, very good. I'm glad you guys were able to figure that all out. So you said that working with the group made it actually much easier for you guys. Is that correct?
Yeah, we at first we were confused just looking at it, but then once we were able to think a little bit out loud together, we started putting 2 and 2 together to come up with an answer.
Yeah, that difficulty does require you to work just a little bit harder, but I think that kind of helps with remembering the information and holding on to that information as well. All right. Give me a second to get our slides pulled back up here. All right, moving on. You guys were able to complete that relatively quickly. All right, so a self-organized learning environment is easily assembled when given the right tools. It looks like all you really need is a group that's willing to collaborate and think on a deep level. So if you can collaborate and work together towards a common goal and find the correct answer, then you have changed the dynamic of learning essentially. Imagine if your boss in your department had given you a project to work on with minimal instruction. Would you be able to pretty much come up with an answer just with the group that you have there? I think when you guys put your minds together, just based on that case study, that's definitely something that's manageable. All right, in summary, we learned about the three presences that make up the community of inquiry framework and how they are intertwined to cultivate the perfect learning environment. But when you took a step further and you kind of see some of the roles that are more needed than others, we explored the possibility of the community of inquiry as a theoretical guide and approach to learning by being part of the case study. We made sure that case study had minimal teacher presence, and you guys were able to produce an answer with more than 50% accuracy. By doing this, we verified that the various learning environments are nurtured in the community of inquiry framework, and that the participants of the community inquiry are required to be students as well as teachers. And you can reference that back to page 109 of the textbook. Ultimately, the role of the teacher presence can vary from one environment to another, but the role is still very valuable and necessary nonetheless. So, although we may not need as much teacher presence as we thought, you definitely need to have that element there. All right, quick assessment. What are some of the characteristics of teacher presence as identified by the textbook author? We have A, teaching presence is a multidimensional construct and is tasked with the maintaining and functioning of communication of inquiry. B, teacher presence has been shown to be largely responsible for social and cognitive presence levels. C, instructors that engage students in the communication process of learning achieve higher levels of teaching presence. Or D, all of the above. Just go ahead and type that in the chat or use your pointer to type it the answer you think is correct. Very good. If you pick D, that is the correct answer. The teacher role engages the social presence, which ignites the cognitive presence. All right, the process engages the students and it elevates the level of the teacher presence overall. All right, does anyone have any questions? I'm going to open the floor up to take any questions about the lesson or the assessment. I'm going to go ahead and end the live recording here. Virtual students, just make sure you include all three of the assessments in your summary, as well as provide the link with the correct answer to the case study. I'm going to ask you guys to use the honor system on that. Definitely partner with your pre-assigned group member and send that in your summary as well. All right, thanks so much for joining, you guys.